Generally speaking, when studios decide to hold off on lifting the review embargo until either the movie or game or TV show or something like that is already out to the public, then that suggests that they don't have a whole lot of faith in their product, because you would think if they actually had confidence that people would like what they're putting out and there would be good word of mouth, then they'd want to have that kind of come out a little bit early so that they can generate some positive buzz around it. But that's not always the case. So sometimes they delay the review embargo and then it turns out it's actually good. Other times, though, or at least more times than not, it usually is a bad sign for them. We got this story right here talking about the upcoming release from Machine Games, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, because apparently they're holding off on lifting the review embargo until the game is pretty much released to the public. Xbox blocking reviews of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle until the game goes into advanced access. Now, advanced access, all that means is people who decided to pre-order early copies of it. So that's why they're waiting to lift the review embargo, because at that point, people are actually going to get access to it, and you can't have a review embargo on just every other player. I mean, even if you tried to have some type of stipulation, you can pre-order and get advanced access to it if you decide not to like talk about it, but that's never going to happen with it. I don't think any court would even uphold that sort of thing if they tried to bury that in some terms of service or whatever. So basically they're holding off the review embargo for this game until the game is out to the public. Machine Games, Bethesda Software, and Xbox are blocking reviews of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle until the game goes into advanced access. And also, just to clarify here, this isn't blocking regular people from talking about it. It's blocking critics from being able to give their reviews of the game, because when they send them copies for the review, then there's stipulations involved with accepting that. And so that's one of the things that they can say is you can't talk about this game until the date that we tell you to. James Laura at MP First reports that he and the website were given a review copy and that the official embargo to publish reviews of the game does not go live until the game goes into advanced access. Lara wrote, for those wondering exactly when the review embargo lifts for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, we can confirm that reviews will go live starting December 5th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. To be clear, according to Steam support, advanced access is not a unique model of development for a game. It's simply an opportunity to play the game before it fully releases on Steam. And that is usually for the general public can get advanced access to a game if they do pre-orders and other promotional aspects like that. And the official Steam page for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle makes it clear that the game will go into advanced access 3 days ahead of the full release for anyone who purchased the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle Premium Edition. Given the game releases to everyone else who does not purchase the Premium Edition on December 8th, it means that advanced access begins on December 5th, the same day that review embargoes will be lifted. And I also want to point out, like I said at the start of it, that doesn't necessarily mean that the game is going to be bad. It does suggest that the studio doesn't have confidence in it, but that's not always the case, though, because for Disney's latest Moana release, I mean, that movie went crazy at the box office this last weekend during its opening weekend, breaking many records. And that was something that had a review embargo that was lifted just before the movie was released to the general public. So this isn't always a definitive thing to say that just because the review embargo was being held off right before the release, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. But there are other signs surrounding this game that suggest that it is probably going to be a flop. This is just probably the latest example of it. The fact that the game is not allowing reviews to go live until the game goes into advanced access is likely not a good sign for the game's quality and content. The game already does not appear to be shaping up well. Sales-wise, despite the game going into advanced access in just 3 days, the game is currently just 179th on Steam's top seller list. Furthermore, the game only has 43,585 total followers. It is 26th on the Steam's most wishlisted upcoming Steam games. For comparison, Dragon Age The Veilguard had 68,379 total followers 10 days before it went on sale on October 31st. So those are pretty bad signs for this. It seems like there's just no hype surrounding this game whatsoever, and people just generally aren't interested in it. I mean, comparing it to Dragon Age The Veilguard should give you a pretty good idea on just how bad this game is expected to do right now. Unless, of course, the game is released and it turns out that people just love this game, then maybe that can propel it a little bit further or give us some legs. But Right now, with the just going by this information, it looks like this is probably going to be a huge failure. Veilguard also happened to be listed on 46th on Steam's top seller, and it was 28th in wish listed. So just more numbers to compare it to where Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is sitting at right now. A retail insider had previously shared with Fandom Pulse that the game had sold 86% less pre-orders compared to Dragon Age Veilguard as well. The game's premium edition had been ordered a total of 208 times back in November 19th, but of those 208 pre-orders, a total of 46 had already been canceled. That brought the total pre-order count to just 162. Yeah, those are devastating numbers for this thing. As for the standard version of the game, it's been pre-ordered 129 times, but 34 of those have been canceled. That brings the total to 95. Overall, the game only had a total of 257 pre-orders. So I think they're talking. I think that, yeah, those aren't necessarily for digital and physical copies or anything like that. I believe these numbers that they're referencing here is just from some retail outlets, not necessarily all of them, but just some of them right there. So this isn't saying that there was only 257 pre-orders in the world for this game. This is just from this particular source right here. So understand the difference here, but still 257 is not a whole lot of pre-orders for a game of this scale. The game also has raised a number of red flags. The game's senior narrative designer, Edward Curtis Sivas, who wore an LGBTQ plus shirt, detailed that the game was made for modern audiences during a promotion for the game back in January. He said, "Now we have the opportunity to tell a new Indiana Jones story for modern gaming audiences." And usually when you hear those words in relation to any type of media, whether it's movie, TV shows, video games, saying this is for modern audience, that is kind of the a big nail in the coffin right there, because that usually means that they're trying to pander to various demographics. And then the trailer came out and it looks like you're going to get some more strong female characters basically just leading Indiana Jones around, and he's kind of becoming a sidekick in his own video game, similar to how Indiana Jones was treated in the last Indiana Jones movie, Dial of Destiny. Something that really didn't fare too well for the movie, which ended up losing hundreds of millions of dollars for Disney as a result. Lucasfilm Games' Greg Derrick also described Indiana Jones' new companion for the game, Gina Lombardi, as Jones' intellectual equal, or she's probably going to more or less be his superior in this. He said in an interview on Lucasfilm.com, "Gina is the perfect ally for Indy. She's endlessly curious, incredibly sharp, and has a personal stake in the story. She not only challenges and assists the player, but also serves as an intellectual equal to Indy, bringing depth to the adventure. Gina adds a personal dimension to the story, making the journey about more than just finding another artifact for a museum. I believe players are really going to connect with her and root for her story," he added. I guess we'll have to wait to find out if players actually do root for this character, or if she's just going to be another groan-inducing female girl boss or something like that. Maybe that's a bit redundant saying female girl boss. You get the idea what I'm trying to say here. A trailer for the game also showed Lombardi talking down to Jones. She condescendingly ignores him. Okay, then let's see if you can keep up. There's also a short clip where it appears that she saves him from falling into a booby trap pit by grabbing onto his jacket and yanking him to safety. Yep, that's kind of in line with what stuff that we see in a media that's produced for modern audiences. Still, another red flag is the fact that the game will feature trigger warning information informing players that the Nazis committed war crimes. Oh yeah, I do love that they decided to include that in this game too, a trigger warning, because the bad guys are Nazis, so they thought they needed to have a warning at the start of the game to say that the bad guys are, or the bad guys in the game are in fact actually bad guys in history, as if people didn't know that already. According to Jordan Midler at Video Game Chronicles, the trigger warning states, "Please note that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a fictional story inspired by historical events and characters. Names, characters, organizations, locations, and events are either imaginary or depicted in a fictionalized manner, not intended to disrespect any historical or cultural beliefs." So you kind of get the idea. All signs are pointing to this game going to be a huge failure, something that's just steeped with identity politics. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that video games like this are in development for many years. And when this game first started and when they got a lot of these things already in motion, this is where they thought the industry was currently leaning. But we've seen over the last year or so that things have kind of shifted, with fans overwhelmingly rejecting major titles like this if they try to push this sort of agenda. Even major franchises like Dragon Age, for instance, are not safe from all this backlash, where even though for that game I thought it was going to do a lot better than what it currently did, it just goes to show that even if you're a long-standing franchise like that, that you could still fail if you try to fall into this trap of just inserting wokeism into modern video game content, because gamers have rejected it. So it looks like, I think I've said this on other things when it comes to movies and TV shows, and I think it's the same thing with video games too, where we've already hit peak wokeness and the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way. But since these games take so long to develop, it's just going to take some time before we start seeing the results of this materialize. But in a few years, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of video game companies either go under entirely or start to shift away from pushing this sort of agenda because they realize it just doesn't work for them. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.